Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be going over the review for Unit 4 Quiz 1. I know there wasn't a ton of room on this document to do your work, so maybe you did your work on another piece of paper and that's absolutely fine. Again, this is just for your own benefit. Okay, so for the first, and I believe it's the first 6 questions, the first 6 questions, you are going to be writing the equation in slope-intercept form. So that is y equals mx plus b. The first one, we're dealing with a graph, and we know we can recognize the y-intercept by where the line crosses through the y-axis, which is right here at +3. So just from that, we know that our b is going to be +3. And then in order to find our slope, we need to find 2 points, and I can use that point that I just created on the y-axis, the y-intercept, and then I'm going to use another point, and I notice that if I go up 2, so my rise is 2, and I go over 3, then I get to the next point. Okay, so that is my slope. So I'm going to plug that into my equation. Just writing this off to the side for you guys so it's not in the way. And so I'm going to plug it into my equation. So 2 over 3x, 2/3 x plus 3, that is our slope-intercept form. Number 2 is probably one of the easiest situations you'll ever have because they give us the slope and the y-intercept. So all you have to do is just plug them in into our slope-intercept form. So my slope is -6/5. I write the x, and then my y-intercept is -4. So I'm going to write -4, and that's it. That's all you do. All right, now we're on number 3. So with number 3, we have all of the parts. We don't need to solve or find anything, but we do need to move it around. So we want y by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 7x on both sides. So -7x, and rewrite this. So 8y equals -7x plus 8. Now I need to divide both sides by 8 so I can get y alone, and I'm going to divide each individual part on the right hand side by 8. So when you do that, you get y equals -7/8 x plus 1. And there you go. So number 4 is currently in point slope form, and we need to put it in slope-intercept form. So the first thing that you're going to do is distribute, because again we have to follow the order of operations, and I see distribution, so I need to distribute first. And when I do that, I get -9/5 x, and then I need to ask myself how many 5s are in 5, just 1, and then multiply that by the numerator, and that would be 9. But remember, this is a negative, so it would be minus 9, sorry about that, -9. And then we need to write the left-hand side. Okay, so now all I have to do is just add 4 to both sides, and then we are good to go, because now it is in slope-intercept form. We have our slope, and we have our we have our y-intercept. There we go. Okay, so for number 5, we're given a point and we're given the slope, but we don't know the y-intercept. However, we can find it from this information. So I'm going to write my slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. And I know everything for this except for the b, so I can plug all these values in and solve for b. So my y is -4. My slope is -3/2. And then my x is negative 2, and I am solving for b, so I'll get b alone. Okay, so negative 3 halves times negative 2, that is going to give me, I would get positive 6 over 2, which simplifies to 3. So I have 3 plus b on the right and negative 4 on the left side. Now all I need to do is subtract 3 on both sides. So then I get b equals negative 7. That is not your answer. Don't stop. Okay, because now you need to plug that and your slope into slope-intercept form. So I'm going to do this in red so that you can see the difference. Okay, so we know y equals mx plus b is our slope-intercept form. Now we have all of that information. So once you plug it in, it should look like this. And there we go. Okay, and the last one that we are doing and solving for the equation in slope-intercept form gives us two coordinates. There's just one extra step from what we did in the fifth problem. So the first thing we need to do is get our slope, and we do that by finding the change in y, doing the change in y over the change in x. And so you can just like label your points like I'm doing right now. And so we're going to use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You just plug it in. Okay, so we have negative 5 minus 4 over 2 minus 3. Okay, in the numerator, you should get negative 9. In the denominator, you should get negative 1. So that will simplify to positive 9. So I know my slope, my m, is equal to 9, but I don't know my y-intercept. So I'm going to use my slope as well as one of these points, whichever one you want, your favorite one, the prettiest one, whatever you want. Use one of these points to find b, your y-intercept. So I'm going to do this next step in red for you. So we're going to use slope-intercept form. Okay, and so I'm going to use the first one. You use whichever one you want. You should get the same thing. So our y is 4, our m is 9, our x is 3, and we are solving for b. We don't know what that is. Okay, so when I do 9 times 3, I'm going to get 27. So right now I have 4 equals 27 plus b. Now I just need to subtract 27 on both sides, and when I do that, I get b equals negative 23. Okay, so now since we have b and we have our slope, now we just have to put this information into our slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form again is y equals mx plus b. And so we're just going to plug in the m and plug in the b, and we are done. So there you go. Okay, so now we are on the second page, and for these next 3 questions, we are going to write it in point slope form, which is, and I encourage you to write this down to have as a reference for these next 3 questions. So it's y minus y1 equals m, and then parentheses x minus x1. This one's a little funny, but basically what you're going to be using is you're going to be using this m right here is obviously your slope, and then you have a coordinate within it. Okay, so that y that doesn't have a subscript and that x that doesn't have a subscript, those will stay as they are. Okay, so number 7 is easy. All you need to do is just plug it in. Okay, so this 4 is going to be your x1, and this negative 3 is going to be your y1. So let's just rewrite it. So y minus, and since this y1 is a negative 3, we would need to write plus. Y plus 3 equals our slope, and then we have We're going to leave this x as it is, and then our x1 is 4, so we're going to write minus 4, and that's it for that one. Okay, for this next one, we need to find our slope before we can plug it into the point slope form. Okay, so you're going to find the difference of y over the difference in x, and you can label yours if you want. Maybe you're getting the hang of this. Maybe you feel like you don't have to label them. Okay. So I'm going to put a +1, and then, alrighty. So we get our slope, and our slope is -4 over -3, which will simplify to +4 over +3. So I'm going to write m equals +4 over +3. Okay, guys, so with this one, when you're doing point slope form, you are using your slope, and then you're also using one ordered pair, not both. So since this one gives us 2 ordered pairs, we needed the 2 ordered pairs in order to figure out the slope. However, there are 2 correct ways to write this point slope form. So you can just choose whichever way that you would like to write it using one of the 2 coordinates of your choice. Okay, so one way, using the first coordinate and our slope, it would be y plus 1 equals 4 over 3x minus 4. So that one is correct. Okay, there are 2 right answers. Or you can write it like this, using the second coordinate. So for this one, y plus 5 equals 4 over 3, parentheses, x minus 1. Both of those are correct. Either one, whichever one you like. So for this next one, they give us the slope and they give us the y-intercept. We know that the y-intercept, the coordinates for it is 0, 4, because the y-intercept is 4. So what we can do is we can plug this into our point slope formula, and then we're good to go. So we need to plug in our slope as well as our coordinates, and so we have y minus 4 equals 1/2 x minus 0. Okay, that's it. That's all you have to do. However, I personally don't love having zeros in my equation. So what you could do is you could find another point by using the coordinate plane in order to find another point on this line so that you don't have a 0 within your equation. So, for example, if I know that my slope is 1/2 and my y-intercept is at 4, then I can just draw this out on my coordinate plane. This is the way in which I would do it. There are multiple ways that you could find another point. All right, so in blue, you're going to see my y-intercept, 3, 4, right there. Okay, and then if my slope is 1/2, then I'm going to go up 1 and then over 2, 1, 2. So that means that there's another point at 5, 2. So if I wanted to, in order to not have any zeros in my equation, then I could use this point. So let's see what it looks like when I use this point. So here, I would plug in my y1 as 2, and then my slope is obviously the same, and then my x is 5. So that's how it would look with this point. Okay? Okay, so now we're at part 3, and for this part we're going to be writing in standard form. Over to the right, I have written the standard form equation and then also the 3 rules. So we're going to reference this with each question and just make sure that we're not breaking any of the rules. Okay, so with this first one, the first thing that we need to do is we need to move that x and its coefficient over to the left-hand side. So I do that by adding 7, 6x. Okay, so when I do that, I get 7, 6x plus y equals -1. So obviously I am breaking my second rule because I have a fraction. So what I'm going to do is I am going to multiply by 6, multiply the whole entire equation by 6 in order to not have any fractions. So I'm going to multiply by 6, and when I do that, I am going to get 7x plus 6y equals -6. Now let's refer to our rules. So a and b cannot both be 0, we're good. No fractions or decimals, we're good. A cannot be negative, it's not negative, so we're good. This is our standard form for number 10. Okay, let's try the next one. So they give us point slope form, and they're asking us to put it in standard form. So we are going to distribute, since we are going from point slope form to standard form. You're not going to ever distribute with point slope form if that's what they're asking for. You're going to leave it as it is. However, whenever you're going from point slope form to a different form, then you can distribute. So we're going to distribute. And when we distribute, we're going to get 5/2 x plus 10. How I got that was I asked myself, how many 4s are in 2? There are 2. And then multiply that 2 by 5, which is 10. And then the left side stays the same. Okay, so now I need to subtract 5/2 x. And when I do that, now I'm going to write up here, when I do that, I get -5/2 x plus y plus 5 equals 10. Okay, I need to move this 5 over to the right-hand side, so I'm going to subtract 5, and now I have 5 equals, and then I have -5/2 x plus y. All right, I am breaking 2 of my rules because right now a is negative, and then also I have a fraction. So in order to get rid of this, I am going to multiply the whole entire equation I'm going to multiply it by -2. So I'm kind of like, I hate this saying, but I'm kind of like killing 2 birds with 1 stone by like knocking 2 things out just with in one process, okay? So I'm going to multiply by -2, and when I do that, I get +5x minus 2y equals -10. Okay, let's refer to our rules. So a and b cannot both be 0, we're good. No fractions or decimals, we're good. A cannot be negative, we're good. All right, there we go. That's our standard form. Okay, so for this next one, I know it looks a little funny, and that's totally okay. So what we're going to do is, this is personally what I would do. I'm not saying that it is the right way to do it or the wrong way to do it. There are multiple ways in which, multiple processes that you can do in order to reach standard form. It's just kind of up to you, as long as like you're doing the process that you choose correctly. So for example, I personally would subtract the x on both sides. So then you have -x equals -3. Then you know that you can't have, a cannot be negative, so you would then divide by a -1 on both sides, and then you have x equals 3. Okay, so that is correct. However, if you choose to get rid of the 3 first, so moving the 3 over to the left-hand side, that is also a correct way to do it. So, for example, this is how it was originally written. If you choose to do it this way, then based on our property of symmetry, which we learned a few units ago, then we know that if 3 equals x, then x equals 3, and that's the same exact thing. I personally just always work with my variables first. That's what I'm used to. So you need to do what works for you. All right, so number 13, they give us a point and they give us slope. So I'm going to use point slope form in order to get to standard form. Okay, so I have my y minus my y1, so I'm going to add 5, and then my slope is -1, and then I have x, and then minus x1, which is 2. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute, because I have point slope form and I'm going to a different form I can distribute. So I'm distributing that -1, and then I get -1x plus 2, and then on the left-hand side I have y plus 5. All right, so now what I need to do is I am going to move a few things around. So I am going to move the x to the left-hand side, and I can do that by adding it. All right, so when I do that, and I'm not going to write the coefficient of 1, we don't need to, so I have x plus y plus 5 equals 2. Okay, now the only thing I need to do is I need to move that 5, so I'm going to subtract 5. And when I do that, I get x plus y equals -3. Now let's refer to our rules, because we need to double check that we're done. So a and b cannot both be 0. We're good. No fractions or decimals. We're good. A cannot be negative. We're good. All right, so here we are. Here is our standard form. Okay, and our last question, number 14. You made it. Give yourself a pat on the back. Props to you for doing the review and also watching this video. You'll be prepared for the quiz. So with this one, with 14, they give you 2 points, and the reason why they give us 2 points is because we don't have the slope. So we're going to use those 2 points to find the slope. However, once we have the slope, then we're going to use point slope form to get to standard form, and you're just going to pick one of the coordinates. Whichever one you pick, it will give you the same exact answer, and I'll chat about this once we get to that part. So first we need to find the slope. So to find the slope, we need to do the change in y over the change in x. Okay, so when we do that, we get -5 minus 0 over 2 plus 1. So then we get -5 in the numerator and +3 in the denominator. This is our slope. So m equals -5 over 3. Now, in a different color, I'm going to use my slope and use one of the points to use the point slope form and then go to standard form. Again, it doesn't matter which one you use, because you're going to get the same exact answer. I personally am going to use the first one. Okay, so point slope form, so y minus y1, my y1 is 0, equals my slope, -5 thirds, x minus x1, since it's a negative, it's going to be x plus 1. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to first distribute. So I'm going to distribute on the right hand side, and when I do that, I get -5 thirds x minus 5 thirds. I'm going to still write everything that's on the left Whoops, I'm gonna write everything that's on the left-hand side. Okay, now I'm gonna bring this over to the right because I'm like running out of room. Okay, we don't need to write the minus 0. We can just write it as y equals negative 5/3 x minus 5/3. Okay, I need to move the x over to the left-hand side. So I'm going to add 5/3 x, add 5/3 x. And when I do that, I get 5/3 x plus y equals negative 5/3. Okay, so I know that I cannot have fractions. I'm not breaking any other rules, but I cannot have fractions. So what I'm going to do is, since two fractions have the same exact denominator, I'm going to multiply by that denominator, the whole entire equation. So I'm going to multiply the whole entire equation by 3. And when I do that, I get 5x plus 3y equals negative 5. Okay, let's just double check. Let's refer to our rules. So our rules say a and b cannot both be 0. We're good. No fractions or decimals. We're good. A cannot be negative. We're good. Okay, so this is my standard form. Okay, good job, guys. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Good luck on the quiz.